Ever since 2002, every Pokemon has had an ability, and some Pokemon like Shedinja would be useless without their abilities. A good ability can take a Pokemon from being terrible to great overnight. This video is going to break down the best abilities in the Pokemon franchise. Now, the actual best abilities in the game are the really overpowered ones, like Shedinja's Wonder Guard or Primal Groudon's Desolate Land, but I'm going to be focusing on more common abilities that average everyday Pokemon can have. Let's get started. The first ability I want to talk about is Magic Guard, which gives you a complete immunity to non-direct damage. This means you won't lose any health to Hail, Sandstorm, Leech Seed, Stealth Rocks, Spikes, Life Orb, Burn or Poison. Although one interesting thing is that in Generation 4, Pokemon with Magic Guard can still be damaged by poison in the overworld. This is an amazing ability with literally zero drawbacks. It's great on defensive Pokemon like Clefable as nothing can chip you down or negate your leftovers, and it means you can have more type variety on Hail and Sandstorm teams. It's also really good for offensive Pokemon, since holding a Life Orb will give you a 30% damage boost without the drawback of losing 10% of your health. And for a frail Pokemon like Alakazam, your Focus Sash will always stay intact. Unfortunately, only 4 evolution lines get Magic Guard, and no new Pokemon has got this ability since Gen 5. One Pokemon who could have really benefited from this ability is Delphox, who would have loved a way to avoid Stealth Rocks before the introduction of Heavy Duty Boots, and having a more reliable Focus Sash could have helped it patch up its weak physical defense. Also, the ability is called Magic Guard, and Delphox is literally based on a magical witch. Another ability that kind of negates the damage from Life Orb is Sheer Force. This ability boosts damage by 30% on moves with a secondary effect, in exchange for negating that effect. So Flamethrower would go from 90 power to 117, but it would lose its 10% chance to burn. Sheer Force also means moves with a secondary effect don't cause recoil damage from a Life Orb, but moves without a secondary effect, like Earthquake, don't have this benefit. A lot of moves have secondary effects which are really unreliable. It's usually less than a 30% chance, so exchanging this for extra damage is beneficial on the vast majority of moves. The only type of move that could be better without Sheer Force would be something like Bulldoze, which has a 100% chance to lower speed. A lot of Pokemon really benefit from this ability. Nidoking is a pretty strong special sweeper with moves like Sludge Wave, Earth Power and Fire Blast. Feraligatr can do a lot of damage with Liquidation, Ice Punch and Crunch, and Flare Blitz from a Darmanitan hits insanely hard. Sheer Force is mostly limited to physical attackers, but I'd love to see more special sweepers get this ability in the future. Houndoom would be a great contender, with Flamethrower, Dark Pulse and Fire Blast. Staying on the theme of offensive abilities, Moxie is a great ability for sweeping. Moxie gives you an attack boost every time you knock out an enemy Pokemon, so once you get 1 or 2 kills, it's really easy to steamroll through teams. This makes Crocodile an S-tier Pokemon to use in-game, and it can lead to a huge portion of the gym leaders and Elite Four members being swept. It helps the in-game trainers generally start the fight with weaker Pokemon, and keep their strongest Pokemon for last, so you can easily pick up a few attack boosts early in the fight. It's also amazing and competitive for late game sweeping, since once you've weakened a few of your opponent's Pokemon, you can come in and get a few easy kills. This works especially well with a Choice Scarf, since a lot of Pokemon who have Moxie don't have the highest speed in the world. If you can boost your speed, like using Dragon Dance on Gyarados or Aqua Step on Quaquaval, sweeping with Moxie becomes even easier. The only Pokemon who doesn't really benefit from having Moxie is Pyroar, who has a much higher special attack than physical, which makes you wonder why Pyroar even has Moxie in the first place. I think a Pokemon who could be a lot better with Moxie is Tauros, who was one of the best Pokemon in competitive Gen 1, but has really struggled in every metagame since then. 110 speed paired with constant attack boosts could maybe give him the edge he needs to be relevant again. One ability that most of you were probably expecting to see in this video is Intimidate, which is undeniably one of the best of all time. It's one of the few original abilities introduced in Gen 3 to not be power crept and still be useful to this day. Lowering your enemy's attack when you switch onto the field is just really useful in so many different situations. It's great for playing through the main story because you'll just take less damage from physical attacks, and it's really good for Nuzlocke because you typically switch Pokemon a lot more in a challenge like that. Also, most in-game trainers will almost never switch out, so once their attack's lowered, it stays lowered. Intimidate's also amazing and competitive, especially VGC since it's all double battles, so your ability essentially becomes twice as useful by lowering both your opponent's attack. Intimidate becomes even better when paired with moves that make you switch, like U-turn, Volt Switch and Parting Shot, since you can intimidate your opponent when you enter the field, either do damage or lower their stats while switching out, and then when you switch back in, you can intimidate them again. Also, a lot of really powerful Pokemon get Intimidate, like Gyarados, Arcanine, Staraptor, Crocodile, and Incineroar. Gyarados in particular really benefits from Intimidate, since its main flaw is its low physical defense. Even weaker Pokemon like Arbok and Hitmontop can find niches thanks to Intimidate. Hitmontop was quite useful in VGC for a few generations, and Arbok is a useful Pokemon to get early on in Nuzlocke, as long as it actually has Intimidate. The biggest downside to Intimidate is that it's not guaranteed on a lot of Pokemon. Arbok, Arcanine and Luxray all have other abilities, which make them significantly less useful, and Pokemon like Gyarados are significantly better thanks to Intimidate being guaranteed. As for drawbacks of actually having Intimidate, if your opponent has the ability Contrary, Defiant or Competitive, lowering their attack will boost their stats. Contrary reverses stat changes, so they'll get +1 attack. Defiant gives +2 attack for every stat drop, so they'll also get +1 attack, and Competitive gives +2 special attack for every stat drop, so they'd get +2 special attack. Speaking of those three abilities, one of their main advantages is that they're good at countering Intimidate. I have some really good childhood memories of using a Defiant Braviary in Pokemon White 2 and getting attack boosts all the time against enemy Crocoroks and Herdias. They're honestly just really fun abilities to play with, and randomly getting stat boosts can turn the tables and put a fight in your favour. They're also great in competitive battles to counter not only the ever common Intimidate, but also Sticky Webs, which lower your speed when you enter the field. That's particularly good on slower Pokemon like Milotic and Gothitelle, who don't mind having their speed lowered. Defiant and Competitive are really similar, but Contrary is a bit different. You don't need to rely on your opponent to lower your stats to get a buff, you can just increase your stats yourself. With Contrary, Serperior's Leaf Storm gives +2 special attack, instead of -2, and Malamar's Superpower gives +1 attack and defense, instead of -1. These are really fun gimmicks to try out, and they can pretty easily lead to a sweep. I think Contrary could be fun on Hariyama, who's decently defensive but could get a lot more bulky with defense and special defense boosts from close combat, as well as attack boosts from Superpower. I'd probably give Competitive to Pyroar. I don't know anything about biology, but just based on vibes, I feel like lions are pretty competitive. Also, anything would be better than Moxie. As for Defiant, I'd give that to Snubbull and Granbull, since they're based on bulldogs who are known for being stubborn, aka Defiant. The next ability I want to look at is Regenerator. This restores a third of your health every time you switch out, and considering you can switch for free at the start of every turn, this is a pretty useful ability to have. It also works if you switch using a move like U-turn or parting shot, so you can deal damage or lower your opponent's stats while regaining your health. It's good on defensive Pokemon like Slowbro or Reuniclus, since you can stay healthy while avoiding a bad matchup, and it's great on a fast Pokemon like Mienshao who can heal by using U-turn before your opponent attacks. In Pokemon Black 2 in the Black Tower, I once used a Mienshao with Regenerator, and the moves U-turn, Rock Slide, Jump Kick and Drain Punch, and it was pretty much the only Pokemon I used for all 10 levels, even when my opponents were a much higher level than me. This is another one that's great for Nuzlocke since you do so much switching, the only issue being that Regenerator is a hidden ability which makes it a lot harder to come by. I think a Pokemon who would really benefit from Regenerator is Goodra. It's the worst pseudo-legendary by far, since it's really defensive but it doesn't get anything like Recover to heal itself. In competitive Gen 9, it's currently in the PU tier, which is the second lowest of the 7 tiers. That's a little bit embarrassing for a Pokemon with a base stat total of 600. If Goodra could regain health by switching, it could definitely find use in the higher tiers. Also, a lot of Pokemon who get Regenerator are really soft and squishy, and I think it would be pretty easy for Goodra to make more goo and regenerate itself. I want to end on two of my personal favourite abilities, Huge Power and Pure Power. They are technically two different abilities, but they do the exact same thing, so I'll be talking about them as one. What Huge Power does is it doubles your attack stat. Azumarill only has base 50 attack, so doubling it to 100 doesn't seem like it's that overpowered, but Huge Power doubles your actual attack stat, not your base attack stat, so EVs, IVs and Natures all get added in before it doubles. With all of those factors included, your attack is able to reach some crazy levels. A level 100 Azumarill with max EVs, IVs and an Adamant Nature will have 218 attack, which doubles to 436. That's higher than a Haxorus whose base attack stat is 147. This means these abilities are amazing in the late game where doubling your attack gives you a much higher number, but they're not too overpowered since they're not as good at lower levels, since you're still working with smaller numbers. Azumarill and Medicham have base 50 and 60 attack, and thanks to their abilities they can reach a really high power level, so giving these abilities to Mega Pokemon is where stuff starts to get insane. Mega Medicham has base 100 attack, and Mega Mawile has base 105. Max attack level 100 Mega Mawile will have 339 attack, which doubles to 678, making it higher than Mega Mewtwo X, who has base 190, the highest base attack stat in the game. These abilities have the potential to be insanely strong, and I love how they can make an otherwise mediocre Pokemon absurdly powerful. I think if I could give Pure Power to any Pokemon, I'd go for Claydol. It's a middle-of-the-road Pokemon who would really appreciate the buff, and wouldn't be too overpowered with it. Most of its good attacks are special, but it would still be able to take advantage of Pure Power with physical moves like Earthquake and Explosion. Also, it's a Gen 3 Psychic type, so it'd be cool for it to mirror Medicham. So, those are some of the best abilities in Pokemon. I've always had a lot of fun using these abilities, and they're exactly what an ability should be in my opinion. A buff that can turn an otherwise average Pokemon into a threat, without being too overpowered. If you have other abilities in mind that I didn't mention, let me know by leaving a comment. There's over 300 in the game, so I'm sure I missed some. Thanks for watching, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.